Steve Wiseman, News and Observer, AP Top 25 voter, is hanging out with us in studio. It's week 0, man. What the hell do you do for week 0? How do you judge week 0? You got 2 ranked games.
Yeah, Notre Dame's playing Navy. Southern Cal's playing San Jose State Saturday night, which it's on. That game's on the Pac-12 networks, which means it's not really on TV anywhere.
Steve,
so
see, that's Pac-12 network, Pac-12 schools in the ACC. You're triggering me, man. You're triggering me. I want football to start so I don't have to worry about conference realignment conversations.
and then I went there.
And you went there, and then you're Notre Dame. I'm like, yeah, that's an NBC game, but what's their future going to look like?
It's going to be on Peacock eventually.
But I do feel at least the Notre Dame Navy game in Ireland actually is a game of some consequence. I mean, it's a traditional game between those two schools. Navy's not bad. So, I mean, what are you looking for in this?
Right. I want to see how Notre Dame, game control. That's what I want to see from that game. Pulling out all the stops early.
The deep cut from the college football playoff. Jeez.
It's I want to see how Sam Hartman looks with the new offense, right?
Yep.
The new team he's playing for. That's the whole thing about that. And then Southern Cal should have no problem with San Jose State. That's more of an exhibition than the Notre Dame Navy game could actually be competitive, which is we're all ready to watch competitive football. So let's get going with it. Hell, we're at this point, we're ready to watch non-competitive football.
It's interesting. Yeah, at this point, that's why they call it week 0. I do feel that you have to be a true, there's a reason why this meme has taken over and there's a whole personality around it. Sickos. Sickos football. That's what week 0 is for, these weird special exemption games, which Notre Dame gets to go play in Ireland. And Hawaii gets it because of the easing of travel, because they got to come to the mainland all the time, and that has all sorts of logistical nightmares. So I get the concept of week 0, but at some point here with the expansion of the college football playoff, week 0 is probably going to become a true week 1, because if you're going to expand, you're going to have more games. There's going to be on-site college football playoff games at home stadiums instead of neutral sites. We're going to start before Labor Day. So it's weird NCAA rules that put us in this situation.
It is, and I think you're right. That's a very good point, that 0 is going to get promoted to 1.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally.
And then will 0 be August 15th, or maybe that's what we'll do. But they are going to have to stretch it back that way, because they don't want to go too far into that spring semester and make football a 2-semester sport. That's the third rail with the NCAA president.
I think you start college football around the same time the pumpkin spice stuff starts showing up in the grocery stores.
And that was this week, right?
In early August. No, actually, before that. Yeah. It actually happens. I think sometimes after July 4th, you start seeing the pumpkin beers hit the shelf, man.
At my local Dunkin' this week, they said, "Would you like a pumpkin spice latte?" And I said, "No, I would not right now. Eventually, I will. This is not the time.
I'm ready for football. I'm not ready for pumpkin spice." What I'm curious about is, how do you and other voters judge what you're going to see out of Michigan potentially over the next 3 weeks? He has a self-imposed, or the school, Michigan, has self-imposed a 3-game suspension for their head coach, Jim Harbaugh, over dead period recruiting violations and workouts related to what happened back in the pandemic, back in 2020, 2021. And it goes beyond just the cheeseburger thing, but I do think it's hilarious that the NCAA is on record to Nicole Auerbach saying it's not about cheeseburgers. Y'all, you look up Streisand effect. You'll learn a lot from that. But how do you judge a team that doesn't have its head coach? These are non-conference games that he's going to be missing. ECU is one of those games.
Yes.
This is a lead up for the difficult conference slate. How do you judge that?
Yeah, they're opening with the fighting ECU Gilios. Right?
Yes. The Gilio family Pirates.
That's right. I look at it in 2 ways. Like, these are 3 games, they should take care of business. This shouldn't be a problem. So if it gets into the second half and there's squirrely things going on, okay, I'm going to give them a little side eye, like, all right, what's going on there, right? Then I remember their head coach isn't there. So it shouldn't come down to game planning. They should be able to beat these teams. All credit to ECU, but they should be able to beat them on talent alone, right? So if it gets in the game plan, then you got a problem. But then also, like, as I go forward, I always look back. How does the team establish itself? Who are they? What's their identity? Well, it's going to take a little while longer to figure out what their identity is, probably.
Makes sense.
Because they're going to be without Harbaugh. So it might impact it further into the year. I mean, let's say if they lose one of them, I wouldn't ding them as bad, right? They'll drop, of course, but I might say, all right, well, what kind of game was it? Did I have a lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties? Okay, well, you're out without your head coach. Whatever.
But it's week 0, so or actually no, Michigan actually plays in week 1.
Yeah.
So are you thinking about moving up or moving down, or just giving them the benefit of the doubt with that?
I would give them. If they lost, I'll move them down.
Well, no, losing is its own thing.
Yes,
losing is its own.
But
its own thing.
if they struggle, I won't. I might move them down, but I wouldn't move them down as much.
Okay,
maybe 1 or 2 spots, maybe instead of 4 or 5. Like because when I do my first regular season poll with actual games, it's going to look dramatically different than my preseason poll.
Yeah,
someone based on what I saw on the field.
Yeah, tying it back to our first conversation when the AP preseason top 25 came out, and we'll actually close on this. Remind me again who your ACC teams were in the ranking.
Florida State at 8, Clemson at 9, Carolina at 25.
Okay. Which ACC school do you think that you don't have ranked in the top 25? Which one do you think will end the season in the top 25?
End the season, okay.
End the season in the top 25.
I think, all right, so NC State and Pitt both have a chance. All right, I'm going to mention Louisville because their schedule's so easy, but that's going to prevent them from getting into the poll because they're not going to beat anybody.
Right, it's going to
get people's attention.
It's going to need a ton of wins banked for you to finally put them in the top 25.
Like Duke last year.
Yes.
Right? Duke never got in the poll, even though they went 8-4. Because they didn't beat anybody of consequence, right? So that's the same thing with Louisville this year. So that knocks them out, I think, of this conversation. So then it's NC State and Pitt. NC State has a chance to get in faster than Pitt does.
Okay.
Because they play Notre Dame second week. And after that, they're going to be favored in every game until Clemson in late October. So if they can win all those games and play Notre Dame well, close loss maybe. If they win, obviously they're going to get in. If they play the close loss, that may get them in if they start racking up. If they're like 6-1 going into Clemson, they're going to be ranked.
Okay.
So that's not the end of the season, I guess. That's it. But I think they have a better chance because Pittsburgh doesn't have anybody until they play Notre Dame in like October. They have Cincinnati, and you know what I'm saying? They don't have anybody that's going to get the attention.
I feel like the opposite question, who's not going to be ranked, would be a really, really bad sign for the ACC. North Carolina floating in and out of the top 25, I can see that happening. But if you're telling me either Clemson or Florida State finishes the season out of the top 25, I'm asking you, who got fired?
That's a problem. That's a problem. And that's Jim Phillips.
Jim Phillips might just go to Graham Neff and be like, buddy, we need to have a conversation. Steve Wiseman, AP Top 25 voter. All right, man, it's here. Football's being played.
Let's do it.
Let's get excited about it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right.